Good, thank you.
Really not bad.
I'd never heard of
I will call the meeting to order. We'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jackie, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Rennie?
Here.
Inman?
Here.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Chairman Maxbauer?
Yes. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our December 5th, 2012 meeting. I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the minutes for December 5th, 2012.
Is there support?
Support.
Roll call, Jackie, please.
Inman?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Lathrop?
I think I should abstain, I wasn't there.
Rennie?
Yes.
Chairman Maxbauer?
Abstain. Next on our agenda is the first opportunity for public comment. Would anyone like to step forward and make public comment? Jackie, would you please read the rules for public comment?
Sure. Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should just raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Jason?
Jason Gilman, 933 Avenue D, East Bay Township. Hello, Commissioners. I opened up my packet about an hour and a half ago. I have it mailed to me so I can keep track of what's going on as well. After my term was expired here, and I found one item where you are going to decide whether or not to accept a contract with EPS for 4 cameras and a recording solution. I was actually stunned right off the bat. I'm familiar with the equipment that they're quoting, and I find the expense to be rather extravagant. Not just that it's extravagant to have the equipment, but rather the cost is quite a bit higher than is necessary. Just speaking from experience, and I did speak with, in between then and now, I spoke with one of the dealers who buys from me. He also deals with the Exact Vision system. He could do what this is for about $6,000 less.
$6,000 less.
You've got a quote here for $12,000, and then you got another, $1,440 in service contract for the year. Okay, for just for 1 year, and then of course you'd carry it on because that's when stuff starts failing, is after the first year. As you know, of course, my business is this business. My own equipment sold through a dealer who I sell to and installed here would cost $5,000 for superior equipment. $5,000, not the $12,000 that's here. One of the things that strikes me is that, number one, I would encourage you not to approve this contract and not have you take a look at some multiple bid possibilities. The other thing I would do is, one of the things that was noted is that this particular company provides services and has other contracts with the county. If that is the case, I would take a look at those and have those rebid as well, because if they're doing this here, if they're marking up at this level here, perhaps it's time to get a little more competitive elsewhere. And Again, I just felt I felt it strongly enough that I was going to kick back in the chair and watch the commission meeting tonight and have my favorite adult beverage, but I felt strongly enough about this that I felt I'd come down here and maybe save you $6,000 or $7,000 right off the bat. And it doesn't matter whether it comes through my chain of supply, but just that you have an opportunity to save the taxpayers a few dollars as well. Thank you.
Holly? Please state your name and address. Introduce yourself.
Good evening. Holly DeWalt with the Commission on Aging. Address is 10099 Lake Duvernay Trail, Traverse City. I just wanted to take a quick moment at the beginning of the meeting to bring to your attention a couple things that are going on with the Commission on Aging. Wanted to announce that with partnership with AARP, we are currently taking appointments for tax preparation. That service is available to any senior in Grand Traverse County who's 60 or over. They are focusing on those people who are middle to low income and who have a simple tax return. So I wanted to tell you about that. And then secondly, we currently have beta and transportation coupons available. So again, available to all seniors in Grand Traverse County, and they can contact our office if they're interested.
Would you give that phone number, Holly?
Sure, 922-4688.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please step forward.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Case, 8901 Summit City Road, Kingsley. And I'm the medical director for Blair Township EMS. I run their ambulance service for them. We provide paramedic services to southern Grand Traverse County, from Benzie to Wexford to Kalkaska County. I'm here tonight to talk about in support of an agenda item, the Smart 911 system that you guys will have demonstrated later tonight. I'm also a representative of the local emergency planning committee, local planning team, and was a representative on the Central Dispatch Advisory Board. I've talked with Jason and Jamel extensively on the subject. We've demoed it before, kind of brought it up as an asset of what this software solution would be to EMS pre-hospital providers. Agencies like mine have provided money already to put mobile data terminals, a lot like the Sheriff's Department has in our apparatus, in our 2 ambulances and our 2 paramedic units, so that if a solution like this came along, that information could be pushed along to us and readily available with technology. The solution's there now. This could tremendously fill a stopgap in information, medical information, to end users like myself that could be very critically important when people can't tell us information. If you've had a heart attack, a stroke, you're unconscious, in cardiac arrest, you can't verbally tell us that information. But ahead of time, with a solution like Smart 911, you could add that information into a system and create an account that could make it available to us. Medical history, what surgeries you've had before, allergies, next of kin, somebody to notify if we need to get a hold of them to let them know that you're in the hospital or provide the information to the hospital. So I just wanted to come in tonight and tell you from an end user's perspective of somebody that has the potential to use that software, it could benefit us greatly. So thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the consent calendar. I'm sorry, approval of the agenda. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda as provided.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to the consent calendar. Jackie?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. 1, Commission on Aging report. 2, Community Corrections monthly report for October. B, approval. 1, proclaim April 2013 Social Host Awareness Month.
Excuse me, I'd like that one.
Sure. 2, Grand Traverse County Sheriff Office surplus equipment. And 3, Commission on Aging 2012 donations.
Is there any member of the public that would like an item pulled from the consent calendar in addition to the proclamation regarding Social Host Awareness Month? Seeing none, any member of the commission? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Is there support?
Support.
Support by Thomas, motion by Lemkool. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Roll call vote on it.
I'm sorry, roll call.
Sorry, first
I'll
meeting.
get there.
First meeting.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Chairman Max Bauer.
Yes. All right, next is action on the consent calendar, and that would be approval of the proclamation regarding Social Host Awareness Month. Mary Beth, would you come forward, please, and introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I was out of turn.
That's all right.
I'm just real anxious, you know, I've got the energy going tonight. I would just...
Mary Beth, would you give
My
your
name
name?
is Mary Beth Novak, and I live at 4416 West Timberwood Drive in Traverse City. And I work for Catholic Human Services. I am one of their prevention workers. Actually, I'm the only prevention worker for Grand Traverse, Kalkaska, and Leelanau County. And we contacted our county commissioners, city commissioners, school superintendents, a number of various community leaders, asking if they would proclaim or support proclaiming the month of April Social Host Awareness Month. And I just wanted to thank the commission for taking this seriously and getting it on the agenda and being willing to support us. Just want to give you a very brief update on some of the other efforts that we are currently making. The big concern with Social Host, of course, is underage drinking. And there's probably a whole lot of parents who don't understand what social host liability is. So we hope to provide them with some education. But let me just share with you that alcohol kills 6.5 times more underage kids every single year than all other illicit drugs combined. We've got a close second coming, and that's prescription drug abuse, and I have some news about that I will share with you in just a moment. But we need to really take very seriously that we are the adults, and therefore alcohol is in our control. And so many adults have gotten so lackadaisical about alcohol, it's just another thing we keep in our refrigerators or our cupboards, that we fail to realize that we really need to protect our kids from it. And you know, it's the job of an adolescent, a teenager, to test limits and find things out, and they will do that. We have to be sort of the barrier in their way. And I would like to remind everybody that alcohol damages the brain, and youngsters, teenagers, young adults who are consuming alcohol are damaging the very parts of their brains that control things like learning and memory. And of course, they do this at a time in their life when they're acquiring skills and education that they're going to build their future on. Michigan ranked 16th as far as the amount of alcohol consumed by underage people, and 1 is the highest, so we aren't, you know, all that far from being in the top percentages of that. So Again, what I would like to remind you of in regards to the social host is that it is we adults who have control of the alcohol. And then my question, obviously, back to adults would be, how come so much of it winds up in the hands of minors? And yeah, I'm not so naive as to believe that, some of it isn't stolen. Teenagers, by the way, well, people ages 10 to, I'm sorry, like 18 to 20 say that alcohol's no problem for them to get. And really, most of us could say, you're right. Because if I have somebody in my home and maybe they're babysitting for a grandchild of mine and they're underage, I don't lock up the alcohol. I know of people who store alcohol in their garage and then don't lock the garage. I mean, that's just kind of begging trouble. The other thing about prescription drugs that I would like all of you to know, and I publicly would like to thank the sheriff and the chief of police, because they have recently had a permanent drop box installed at the law enforcement center. Any work day between 8 and 5, you or I can stop in. We can dump our old and unused drugs and walk out with no questions asked. And I have brought some information for the commissioners and the public here in attendance as well about why this is such a problem. And the flip side of it tells you exactly what you can and cannot dispose of at the drug box in law enforcement. So, more power to our community. We're trying to do, it's taking very small steps. It's a very old problem, and a lot of people just don't want to hear about it. It's like, oh, that old thing again. It's killing our kids.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I would entertain a motion. Commissioner Levenkuhl.
I'll make a motion to proclaim April 2013 as Social Host Awareness Month.
Is there support?
Second.
Motion by Lemkool, supported by Rennie. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Mary Beth, will you get me a copy of that? I'll sign it and get it to you.
Oh, the proclamation. I thought you had.
All right.
It's in your packet.
Next, department action items. Central Dispatch. Jason?
Jason Torrey, Deputy Director for Central Dispatch, and I have Adam here from Rave Mobility. Our first agenda item pertains to the aforementioned Smart 911 system. Adam's here to do a quick presentation. Some of you have seen a portion of this already, but before we get started with that, I just want to make mention that we have reviewed this with our IT staff, our phone vendor, and our legal counsel to make sure that we're in accordance with everything that would be required of us locally and pertaining to technical and legal issues. So I will let Adam go ahead and do his presentation. Should last about 10 to 12, 15 minutes, and then there'll be time for question and answers briefly following that.
All right.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Commissioners, for having me this evening. Again, my name is Adam Eisman. I'm the Regional Director for Smart 911. So we're going to take about 10 or 15 minutes just giving you some background on the company and what our niche is within public safety, and then we'll save some times for Q&A. So the company is called Rave Mobile Safety, and the product that we're going to be discussing is Smart 911. The company's actually been in business for about 8 years. We have over 600 clients and protect over 6 million individuals. We actually got our start in higher education, where we have a product where students can create a profile for themselves, including additional information about themselves, and if they ever call campus safety, that additional data is then provided to them. Several years back, we started to get approached by different municipalities, NENA, which is the National Emergency Number Association, saying, hey, this is a great idea for higher ed. How can we tweak this a bit and make it work for our 911 center, make it work for our municipality? And that was essentially the genesis of Smart 911. So we do continue to do a lot of work within the industry, including NENA. We participate in the I3 group, which is the group that's helping to define really what next generation 911 is going to look like. So next generation 911 being the ability for a 911 center to receive things like text messages, crash analytics, even potentially video. And then we actually chair one of the subcommittees around supplemental data, essentially what Smart 911 is providing. So a pretty good stronghold from an industry perspective. Today, Smart 911 is in 28 states. You could find us in Washington, D.C., Nashville, Seattle, Atlanta, and actually the entire state of Arkansas, so growing rapidly here. And when we talk about the concept of Smart 911, the national aspect is really key. So taking a step back, let's talk about what 911 and public safety actually knows about a caller. And it's really not that much. It's an ANI, which is your phone number, and your ALI, which is your location information. And the accuracy of your location really does vary depending on whether or not you're calling from a landline or a mobile phone. And today, 70% roughly of all 911 calls are from mobile phones. That's a fact from the FCC. So with Smart 911, we're able to provide a tremendous amount of additional data. So physical address, where do we send resources to? Number of residents in that household. If there's any special needs in that household. So for example, and this isn't limited to what we see here, but is there someone that's deaf or hard of hearing? Potentially someone that has a history of domestic violence? Does someone have a latex allergy or a penicillin allergy? Again, this is all supplemental data that you're not currently getting with today's 911 calls. And I should stress that this works across landlines, mobile phones, VoIP numbers, so the entire spectrum of potential calls that you would get into your 911 center today. And again, the information that we could collect is actually quite vast. So, for example, you can include a photo of yourself or other members of your family. And we'll hear about a frantic parent call into 911. They'll let them know that their child's gone missing. Typically, they'll dispatch an officer or a deputy out to that residence, try to collect a recent photo, maybe take a picture of that photo, send it back to dispatch where it can be disseminated out through the proper channels. Well, that takes time. And with Smart 911, when that parent calls in, you'd immediately have an up-to-date photo and physical description. You could also include any type of medical conditions, any disabilities, allergy information. We've had several saves where there's been an affliction with an allergy that the 911 center wouldn't otherwise have known. So, for example, in DuPage County, which is just outside of Chicago, they had an incident where a woman was actually outside doing some gardening, felt a spark in her neck, called 911 from her mobile phone, wasn't able to speak. Now, prior to having Smart 911, they would have dispatched just police to do a wellness check because it was essentially a silent call. However, they had this additional information, so they sent DuPage Fire and EMS. When they got there, this woman was in anaphylactic shock, and credit Smart 911 with helping to save her life. But you could also include any type of rescue needs. In my profile, I have a daughter that sleeps in a crib, and I wanted to make that known, so I included that in my profile, just as an example. But information around your household, so again, just having a physical address, hugely important, maybe including apartment number, condo number, number of occupants within that residence, bedroom locations, emergency shutoff valves, even emergency contacts. And we'll hear about folks that suffer from Alzheimer's or dementia that wander away from home. They know to call 911, but they might not know an emergency contact or their care facility, for example. Even a vehicle description, something that first responders would want to know when rolling up to a house. So a lot of this information obviously is for citizens and their safety, but also for first responders as well. So for example, you can include pet information. Folks love to provide that information. Pets are an extension of your family. But additionally, if I'm a first responder, I'd like to know if there's a pit bull Rottweiler in that residence before going out to that location. So let's talk about how this comes together. So Smart 911 is actually a free service for citizens to sign up. So I would encourage the individuals in this room today to go to smart911.com, create a profile for yourself. You can include as much or as little information that you want to make available in the event that you call 911. So the only time your profile is actually made available is if you call 911. It's also a national service. So if you were to travel to Nashville or to Washington, D.C. or to Seattle, your profile is going to essentially travel with you. Now, additionally, It could also be made accessible to all the tourists coming into Grand Traverse in the summertime as well. Your profile is triggered off your phone number. So again, it can work off your mobile phone as well. The profile itself can actually display on any screen within your 911 center. So your computer-aided dispatch screen, your New World system that you currently have in place, your admin screen, your positron equipment. It doesn't matter to us where the profile pops up. It's really up to your dispatch folks where that actually takes place. Another key component to the service, when you sign up with Smart 911, it creates a 6-month timer. At the 4-month mark, we'll send you an email or a text asking you to update or confirm your profile information. At the 6-month mark, we'll actually call that phone, whether it's a landline, mobile phone, etc., asking you to update that profile information. If that citizen chooses not to update that information, we'll suppress that data. So call takers, first responders will only see information within 6 months. And from the data points that we have, 95% of the people actually choose to go back in and update their profile information. Additionally, all the information that your folks in the 911 center are seeing can be accessed in the field as well. So through your MDTs, there's a web portal that they could log into and see photographs, medical history, etc. So obviously we are a software company, but the PR and marketing component to this is really quite unique and can be all-encompassing. But we've got a tremendous amount of press at a national level. We've been featured in USA Today and CNN and in local markets as well. But the important thing to point out here is we have a community marketing team that will work with the county on getting the word out about Smart 911. So we just don't provide the software and say, here you go, good luck marketing it to your citizens. What we're seeing here is an example of typically the first wave of material that goes out. And it's completely customizable, but these are generally at-risk groups that want to provide this information today but just don't have a means to do it. So whether it's seniors, physically disabled, parents that have kids in the K-12 system, again, all these various groups want to provide this information but just can't do it today. And we've done some unique things in this area, from creating business cards that first responders take out to flyers that go home with kids' report cards, but tie nicely into a lot of the infrastructure that you have available today. Also things like DARE programs, Telecommunicator Week, Fire Prevention Week, CERT programs, open houses. So again, it's a true public-private partnership. So this slide I'll just leave up here, but that was the end of my presentation here. I wanted to make sure to get it wrapped up in about 10 or 15 minutes and make sure I address any questions that you guys might have at this time.
All right. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Inman.
I just want to let you know that we had a presentation at Central Dispatch Board on this Smart 911 program, and we were pretty much impressed all the way across the board with all the emergency services people there. And it was, I suggested at the meeting that we just not wait on this and that we take this up to the county commission as soon as possible and get them in for a presentation. And they passed a motion to move forward to do that. I don't know, Jason, if you are able to speak on this or not, but one of the obvious opportunities at the meeting was they were looking for a demonstration county within the state of Michigan that we potentially could get a preferred cost factor involved by being a demonstration location, and that, you know, having other counties come up and view what we got, and there would be a financial incentive for us to be the first one in. Is that still good or not good?
In the packet here, we included a brief brochure on Charter 50, their Charter 50 program.
Yeah.
And the pricing that's been offered to Grand Traverse County is actually a 50% discount pricing off of the list price of the software. And that comes with being the first in state to participate in the program. It also comes with the opportunity to access and utilize their marketing team to help develop and get the word out locally to the citizens in Grand Traverse County. That's one reason, and probably the primary reason we feel it's important to address it right away, was that if we have the opportunity to be part of that program and save Grand Traverse County money while at the same time introducing something that's a great benefit, we think that's absolutely imperative to get that on board quickly. And Adam can probably speak more on the Charter 50 program briefly and get you up to speed from them what they're going to do for us.
Yeah, so obviously there's a financial incentive, but it gives you an opportunity to be a showcase throughout the state of Michigan. You would be our first deployment, obviously nationally. We have some very large deployments. So it's an opportunity for other 911 directors to come in, see the software, and there's a larger marketing push, quite frankly, being the first. There's more interest in the media. But also included in the Charter 50 program is we fly out an individual from the dispatch center yearly to our summit. They have direct access to our senior executives, including the CEO, and work on enhancements and new products. So it's a great program and only available to the first in state in Michigan.
Dr. Lathrop.
Thank you. Jason, this is going to cost $14K a year for 5 years. What about other costs? Will we have IT costs? Will we have computer costs? Are there other costs?
This is, the implementation fee associated with this is built into the proposal. So the first year is a $19,000
Yes.
license fee. But the years following is simply a software licensing per workstation fee. Once it's implemented, it's a simple serial connection to our current existing 911 server, and it integrates through a simple configuration to our existing workstation, so we don't have to add any equipment. It's more of a web portal that comes up, a browser session that allows the supplemental information to be presented to the call taker. So very, very minimal, if any, maintenance required on that.
So the net cost is going to be somewhere around 14K a year for 5 years. Then.
Right.
Nothing that, okay. And now, we don't have this in our budget, do we, Dean?
Not currently.
Okay. I know that there's a possibility that we could get some extra money from increased 911 fees if we win this thing in court, or we talked about that. What are our chances of that happening?
Very good, actually. Now that we succeeded in our second Court of Appeals attempt. The Court of Appeals recently, I think as of last week, as a matter of fact, indicated that the MPSC has to go back and reassess their decision that they made in 2008. Our legal counsel that's representing the counties in the matter feels very confident that if nothing else, that we're going to be able to bring our surcharge back to a level which it was in 2008.
So that could help us recoup some of these costs.
That theoretically could, yes.
Yeah.
It should provide us with an increased level in surcharge revenue.
And what's the timeline on that, do you think, of us getting that?
The requirements to the state are due in May, so we're obligated to supply them with our surcharge in May, so it has to be rectified. It'll be, some remedy will take place between now and then.
Okay, so it's pretty soon.
Right, real soon.
Thank you.
Commissioner Inman.
2 points. One is that we always set up a contingency for the new commissioners that are here for these kinds of things that come before the board that are really unknowns for the year, that we feel are very important to the community and to the county commission, and I felt this would be one that we should consider. I don't recall the exact amount in our contingency amount, but I believe it was around $100,000 or so. So we do have some supplemental money that is budgeted for these sorts of things, and it would fit in within that budget. The other thing is, I guess my belief is that in order for this thing to work in the short term and long term, you would have to have a substantial education, marketing piece component to it because you don't have time on a 911 call to upload all this data. So you would have to have like an outreach program where people are going online or other means to accumulate that data and get it in. So what is your experience in, with the areas that you've set up? Have they had some challenges doing that, or has the community embraced it and really supported the system?
Yeah, I think, my initial thought is there's probably not too many things that you can purchase that are public-facing like Smart 911, especially that are free for citizens. We typically see a great response all across the board, not just within the at-risk community. And that is the way that it's marketed for everyone. Furthermore, I think that working through different advocacy groups, such as Epilepsy Foundation at a national level, diabetes, Alzheimer's group, autism group, deaf and hard of hearing. These are groups that get really passionate about what we're doing and help get the word out to the citizens. And I think just to give an example, in Nashville, within the first couple weeks, we saved our first life. So it's working all across the country. From an adoption perspective, the first year we see maybe 15% of individuals within a county registering on average. And the folks that do register are 2 to 3 times more likely to call 911.
Commissioner Lemkool.
Is there room in the budget for 911 budget to be able to put this together, or at least partially fund through your budget?
I do believe we could probably partially fund part of the license fees.
I'm just thinking maybe we split between our emergency fund and your fund and split.
We'd have to look at it closer, but I think that's probably doable.
So
Commissioner
I'll
Wheelock?
make that motion.
Oh, all right. Is there a support?
Second.
Motion by Lemkool, supported by Thomas. Commissioner Wheelock? You've had your hand raised, I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine. Obviously, most everybody in the room knows I've made more than one of those calls that you'd have been really nice to know that there was a Rottweiler behind that door, where the key was hitting and what the code number on the garage door opener was, or all of those kind of things. I still come back to a concern of getting the public to register the information. I'm concerned that we if we're going to do this, we absolutely have to have a plan of how we're going to make that happen. To just assume that people will go on and fill in the information, people tend to be too lazy to do that.
Right. I can tell you that from the 911 center's perspective, that we already took a conscious look at this and said we are going to be very, very proactive at how we manage it and market it to the people in the community. We have support from fire, EMS, and law enforcement. You were there, Mr. Inman, at that meeting in which all of those entities had nothing but good things to say about the product, and they were on board with the marketing strategies. Daryl Case back here said he'll go house to house if he has to make sure that the people that are in his community that he knows will benefit from this service get registered.
My point is that, there are, and Georgia sits back here, Commission on Aging has every one of their members every one of their clients needs to be registered in this process. Because God knows we make more than enough ambulance calls to those places, and we don't have half enough information when we walk in the door. It just doesn't happen. So, I'm willing to support this. I personally would have liked to have just simply funded it out of the 911 budget with the idea that, no, think about this, though.
No, I'm just looking at Jamel's face.
Jamel and I have been around this block before. We're used.
I see what happened.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. She's lying in your other arm.
But the fact is that until we know what the 911 surcharge monies are going to be, we don't know what their final revenue is going to be. We can always amend their budget at any point during the year. I don't have a problem taking a portion of the contingency. I just, at this point, it's a 911 function. I would have just as soon left it as 911 function and funded it that way at this point, but, you know, the motion is to fund it 50/50. I don't have a problem.
Commissioner
supporting it
Inman.
either.
I'd like to, if it's okay with it, just clarify your motion. The motion was to move forward to contract with Rave Mobility to provide the Smart 911 service in Grand Traverse County, and for a fixed annual license fee of $14,000 and a one-time implementation fee of $5,000, and that I'm assuming that by the board meeting at the end of the month, their administrator would come back with a recommendation on how we're going to fund it between 911 and our contingency fund. Is that fine?
I'm fine with that.
Just so it's better written in our minutes.
I'm fine with that.
All right, okay.
I think I have to amend my motion to be able to do that.
Yeah, to make the record clear, why don't you move to amend the motion?
Yeah, move to amend the motion to reflect that, ask administration the best way to be able to fund this.
Is there support for that amendment?
Second?
Well, there's,
We're just clarifying the motion, really, but
I thought we were voting on an amendment.
Yeah.
Right, you could do it one of two ways. You can do a friendly amendment.
I just would do a friendly amendment, let
Fine.
everybody
That's fine.
understand it.
A friendly amendment.
Perfect.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Jason, am I assuming that as of year 6, the price will be $28,000?
No, we had that discussion, and
You know, we talked about a 50%
Right,
reduction for
right,
5 years. I want to know where we're at.
that's a
in year
5-year
6.
contract, exactly, and we discussed that, and before, obviously, before we get to that point, we wanted to make sure that we wouldn't be stuck with something that went up 100%, and they have agreed to do a nominal annual increase, such as regular maintenance contract that you'd see locally of 3 to 5% or whatever that might be.
Or it's being adopted by everybody and it cuts in half.
That'd be better.
Commissioner Rennie.
Yeah, I noticed there's a little note here that says this 50% thing is valid until February 28th. Does that impact what we're doing at all with respect to this analysis?
I think
Are we going to lose that discount or something?
We're going to look for the approval before that date,
Okay.
is what I understand.
If
We
this,
have time to make all this happen.
if this committee approves it tonight, it will be ratified by the Board of Commissioners meeting the last
27th.
Wednesday of the month on the 27th.
Right.
We should be good.
All right. I'm going to call the vote.
Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next, Governmental Center Security, EPS Video Surveillance Proposal. Who would like to address us on that issue?
I will. The second agenda item pertains to the 4-camera proposal by EPS to provide an IP-based network security surveillance system and including the governmental center complex of 4 cameras, 2 in the airlock in the front of the facility, 1 at the man door at the bottom of the stairs, and then 1 in front of our central dispatch door. You've had a chance to review that. I can say that in response to the concern about the way this has come about, that it was never meant to circumvent the purchase policy. Collectively, and I mean collectively, IT facilities administration and central dispatch sat down with each other and discussed the options available to increase the security in this building. It was determined that EPS, it would be an extension of their security measures that they currently provide Grand Traverse County, and that it was essential to have something more in place than simply have DK security at the front door during the meetings and locking the doors and going home. We have staff in this building 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we actually occupy it more than anybody else, more than the 40 hours, more than the meeting times. We've had dispatchers that have encountered people outside as well as people inside after hours and on weekends. We think it's imperative to have at least a baseline ability to monitor who's flowing in and out of this facility, not only for these meeting times and during the day, but essentially for and especially for the after hours. This system proposed by EPS includes an MBR with, I believe it's 6 terabytes of storage. It's a recording device with the licensed software. the 4 cameras installed, and biannual maintenance on those cameras and that system as part of their maintenance contract.
Commissioner Inman?
My recollection, Dave, is that the county commission currently has a standing document that probably some of us don't remember, and a couple new ones wouldn't. There's a purchase policy or, an acquisition policy by Grand Traverse County in place that was adopted many years ago that we follow, that I think if it's a purchase over X amount, was it 5 or 10,000? Is it over 10,000? Then it does require a bid process, and if they're unable to receive, other than more than one bid, then we would just accept that. Or during the bid process, they would have to meet the guidelines of the bid in order to, for the review of the recommendation. So, and then I think there's also an exception for professional services. Sometimes we don't need to go out for bid for that, but would we define this more not a professional service like a CPA or an attorney? This would be more of an equipment purchase, so we would have to probably go out for bids.
IT director over here. Well, we had a discussion on this very topic when we looked at these, what our solutions were. We had the gentleman from EPS in. We spoke with them, and we kind of decided after a lengthy discussion that we were getting a fair deal for the equipment, and that we have a trusted vendor. And what we really want is someone that will not only put in these cameras, but put in all the future cameras. We've got cameras in district court that are on a very old system. That's the next step to upgrade. We've got cameras in the circuit court. We've got cameras all over the place. And it's all a part of a single internet protocol system, so that you don't even have to be here and you can see what's going on in each of those cameras. It's certainly a generation beyond what we've ever put into this county. And I don't know if Don wants to speak on this or not, but my trusted advisors were the ones that told me this is the greatest, this is a good solution, and it's a very cost-competitive solution. So what we heard tonight was that perhaps it's not. And I don't know whether we should go out to bid or not. Maybe Don would like to speak to that.
I would like to speak, if I may. No? I've seen the equipment and some of Jason Gilman's work, and as a result of that firsthand knowledge, I have extreme respect and high regard for his knowledge and abilities in this particular area. He knows cameras, and if he's telling me that we can get the same exact camera for $6,000 less, or do this for $6,000 less, I think it bears a second look. That's just me. Anyone else? Don?
Jamel wanted to comment.
Jamel?
I think Don wants to comment.
I just wanted to, when we started this process, cameras had been discussed for some time, and it was, the idea floated around between different departments. And the goal for us, we just wanted to get something in here for our people. So we had some money left in our budget, and at the end of last year said, basically, I don't care where the money comes from. We have a little money left. Can we at least get something going here? And when we first started talking about this, it was under the $10,000 threshold. And then it made sense to consider the future needs and what we would need to do to, expand the capabilities of the system. And so that, at the end of the process, pushed us over that $10,000.
Jamel, I don't think anybody's arguing, at least I haven't heard it, the need for the cameras.
Right.
I'm a firm believer in video cameras.
Also, it isn't just the cameras either. It's
I understand that,
the
but
whole thing.
we've never had these cameras before. I think, just taking a second look at this and then bringing it back after we've had a second look, I don't think 4 weeks is going to make or break us. Commissioner Lemkool.
Can we get it back within 2 weeks before our last meeting of the month so we can make this?
You can't do a bid package in 2 weeks.
I mean, if we bring it to Ways and Means,
No.
No.
I don't know.
It takes time. It'll be a month.
It has to be a written bid at $10,000.
Oh, that's right. No.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I guess I'd like to hear what Don Sheehan, our IT director, has to say, and then I do have a few comments.
Well, I did meet with them also, and, I looked at the technical specifications, and Jamel is right. I mean, when I looked at it, and I bumped up the disk drives and things so they had protection, so if we had a failure, that the system, was not going to die, we could replace disk in there. And, but yeah, so I felt the system would meet our needs, and kind of, I know that Jason and Danny both have the relationship with EPS, and that's kind of where that came from with, recommending them since they were already handling the card key locks and the other security for the county, and that was where the recommendation came in then.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Okay, I guess my comment comes back to what Mr. Bendis said a few minutes ago. We're talking about putting cameras in this building. We already have cameras in the district court building and in the circuit court building. I think if we're going to talk about a security camera system, we should be talking about a system, whether it's a phased purchase or something else. We don't want to, in my mind, we don't want to go and purchase 4 cameras to put in this building, and then 6 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from now, we have a failure in the circuit court building, and then go buy something different, or buy something different. I think it makes sense for us to bid a security camera system for these facilities, whether it include the law enforcement center, the district court building, and the circuit court building, and the governmental center. Well, I'm trying to think, I don't think we have them at Lafreniere. I don't believe we have them at the health department. But we may want to consider that. But we should definitely bid a security camera system that we can phase into implementation. I think to just make a decision here tonight to purchase 4 cameras, I think it's just very short-sighted.
I agree.
I'm sorry, that was the whole point. We were recognizing that this has to be an expandable system. We have many more needs coming down the road, and it needs to be a system that is the core of a system that will expand throughout with several additions.
I think that because of the fact that 6 cameras are such a small component of our system, we should be looking at what the system costs and then how we can phase it. I think it makes much more sense.
That's exactly how we put it together.
We did ask for that requirement for an expandable network-based system that we can, on the county network, plug and play cameras from remote locations such as Hall of Justice, courthouse, and law enforcement. The initial proposal did not support that, so that's the increased charges there was to provide us with a server, an MBR device that was capable of managing an increased number of cameras up to 64 or 100 cameras. So I think we went through that process already with this. But yeah, I agree with you, and that's we took that into account when we did it.
Yeah, and to bring this to conclusion quickly, I mean, we can go and get bids on this.
I don't
It's
see
not a
where we have
problem,
it.
and
Madam Chairman, I would move that we direct staff to put together a bid package to include security cameras as deemed to be appropriate for county facilities as a whole.
Is there support?
Second.
Motion by Wheelock, supported by Thomas. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries.
We'll be back.
Thank you.
Next, Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office, School Liaison Officers. Sheriff Bensley, I'm going to assume that you're going to take this. And Under Sheriff Alger. Yeah, brought Nate.
Tom Bensley, Grand Traverse County Sheriff. Nate Alger, I work for the Sheriff's Office. Well, we're here tonight to let you know that we are in the kind of preliminary stages of putting together something that does not in any way operate or work like our old school liaison program. It's not your father's Buick or however that commercial used to go. We, over the past couple years, have been analyzing activities and time spent by our officers, as several of you know. And we feel that in the patrol division, where we have 24 county-funded patrol officers, when we have 24, we've had some personnel issues in the past year with some turnover and vacancies, and currently we have 2 vacancies. But we've come to the conclusion that out of those 24 officers, we would be able to use 2 of those patrol officers as school resource officers. Now, these resource officers would cover every school building in the county, public, parochial, private schools. They would be able to respond to complaints there. I'm not going to get too far into the details. But this would be operated by Captain Fulis in the patrol division. They would be uniform officers. They would be in patrol cars. They would be available for other emergencies if needed. They would not be assigned to a school or 2 schools. They would be available and be able to frequent all the schools. We have been talking about this for some time. One of the memos I have was back in, I think, the first part of November. Captain Fuels put down on paper some of the ideas and thoughts he had on how we would approach this. So this is not as a result of the unfortunate incident in Connecticut. However, we think in a small part it may be able to address some of the concerns that some people may have and have questioned us about, well, what are you doing to prevent that in our schools? So what this is completely different. These officers are county-funded officers. There are no restrictions on where they can go, what they can do. They would be aligned with the school year. They would be available in the summer as regular patrol officers to help the patrol division when we are obviously the most busy. So it's kind of a work in progress kind of thing. And we're looking at, down the road implementing this when we're full staffed, when we feel that it's time. Obviously, the sooner the better, but we do have some personnel issues we're working through right now to fill those vacancies.
Sheriff, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to tell you where to put your officers. If you're going, your job is, as you know, to put your officers where you think they're going to do the most good. So if you believe that this is where your officers need to be, you won't hear an argument from me. Commissioner Inman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, you can't pick up a newspaper today without reading a story about situations going around in the country in the K through 12 system, where there's more. When I grew up, you never heard of drugs and violence and beatings and all kinds of serious crimes going on within the school system. And today it's a different world, in my opinion, than when I went to school, at high school. You pick up newspapers today, the Free Press, the Detroit News, and newspapers around the state, and there are stories about school systems now looking at some sort of police coverage or security coverage within the school system. All higher ed schools now have public safety and security departments as people go on and move on into higher ed. I think that your proposal is a good step. It's a good interim step because we have discussed previously on this board our concern about losing those liaison officers and that not having the detailed attention in the school system like we did have just brings out more problems that we're going to face later on down the road. And we're not going to be on the front end, we're going to be on the back end of dealing with all these problems as they get older. So my hope is, and I know that I was going to bring this up during our strategic planning discussions when we schedule that, is that I would hope that we would try to move forward with your plan and if at all possible, at least take an opportunity to talk to the Traverse Area School System Board of Directors and Board of Education to see if they have some new feelings regarding officers in the school, and whether they would have any possibility of assisting us with funding as we did before. I don't know. So certainly would be worth the question and the visit. So.
Well, one of the things we're considering, because there was an issue before with funding in the schools, and a strong opinion that this board had on that program, the liaison program, okay? And we don't want to call this a liaison. This is different. This is something different than that liaison program. Because there was such a strong feeling, and we understand that the school system is going to be starting, if they haven't already, their budget process. I've had some preliminary talks that didn't come out very well. They have their funding issues, and they aren't getting any better. But we're happy to talk with the schools about any possible funding they may have. With what we're proposing, and we want to let you know, because of the discord there was several years ago, that this is completely funded by the county. That's not specific to the Traverse City Area Public Schools like the liaison program was. So we'd like to have that opportunity, talk with the schools. If they have funding, that may have a little bit different look. Partial funding, full funding of officers, we don't know. But we're kind of moving in that direction. We haven't left them out. So at least at this point, if there's more funding available, that very possibly would mean more people.
Commissioner Wheelock, then Commissioner Thomas.
The sheriff's, it aptly calls it, board's rather vocal opinions about the former liaison program, and I think I know very well who had those vocal opinions, so we won't go to there. But I think what we saw with the old liaison program is, in many ways, it became outside of our control. We allowed the school to dictate to us when the officers were going to be there, that they were going to be unarmed, or I shouldn't say unarmed, but they were going to be in suit jackets and not quite so obvious that they were officers. You know, the sheriff and I have had some conversations, and I certainly support this possibility. I like the idea that we're including all of the schools in our community, and you know, I don't know. You know, my argument when we eliminated the program before, when the school chose not to provide any funding, how do I make an argument to Peninsula Township or East Bay Township? If you want an officer in your township 40 hours a week, you have to pay 100% of the wages and benefits for that officer, and at the same time tell the school, I'll give you an officer 40 hours a week for nothing. You know, and in fact, 4 officers 40 hours a week for nothing. So that was the argument when the school chose to eliminate the funding. I certainly support this program. I support the fact that we have, for practical purposes, an armed, uniformed presence with a marked patrol car sitting at the door when they're there. You know, I don't want anybody to have any question that we have an officer here. You know, the idea that we allowed the program to get before, and it was no one's fault. It just kind of evolved and got away from us a little bit, I think, in many ways. And, you know, all of a sudden, you know, we had, you know, officers in sport coats, high-fiving kids in hallways, and all of that was great. And, you know, my kids were in school at the time. I personally know each of those officers that were in our schools in our county at the time. And those guys did a great job. And they handled complaint after complaint after complaint, that those things are still happening today, but we aren't handling the complaints. There's still vandalism to cars in the parking lot that nobody's handling a complaint, a cell phone that's missing, you know, and a minor assault, you know, harassment of students. All of those things are still happening in our school today, but we are not being proactive in how we're handling those because we're not there. So I think it's very important that we get a presence back into our schools and back into our community, but I absolutely believe it needs to be a uniformed presence. And I think that's the best part about this program over what we had before, in my mind.
Commissioner Thomas?
Well, I had a chat with the sheriff a couple of weeks ago, and he presented this plan to me, and I think it's the best idea I've heard in quite a while, and if nothing else, it's a starting point, because I don't think this idea of the schools needing help is going to go away. I think it's going to get worse as time goes on, and if he can start it with 2 officers and nobody knows where they're going to be till they show up, it might keep the bad guys at home, who knows, but I think it's a great plan, considered it's really not going to cost us that much. We're just, when they're in the school, they're not on the road, that's the only difference.
Commissioner Rennie?
I just had a question for Nate Alger. From your experience in Kingsley, can you tell me if we want a uniformed officer with big presence, or is it better to have a guy that's maybe not quite so police-looking?
I think it's important to have the uniformed presence at this point in time. This is morphed over the years, back and forth with the school districts. It depends on the preferences of the school principals and the relationships those officers have with the school kids themselves. So some young people, some staff members may object to the uniform initially. They'll warm up to it.
All right. Commissioner Lemkool?
I'm really encouraged by this, and I really commend the sheriff for bringing this forward. And I have to agree with you, Chris, that, how you handle your officers within your organization is your decision, and that's the way it should be. But I also am encouraged that you are talking to the schools, and I'm glad that our superintendent's here and the president of the school board is here, but that's only one part of our school system within our communities. So, I would hope that we would continue to have dialogue with them and to find out how can we make it, step it up another notch, if we can, some way, shape, or form. And I think that, to me, is exciting. When Sheriff Bensley brought this to me, I was really excited, because that's one of my issues that I've had going into my election, that I wanted to see if we can't do school liaison officers or something like that. So it's really a pleasure that the Board of Commissioners, I think, support the venture and encourages the continued discussions on how to enhance the relationships we have with the schools in our communities. That's my motion.
Oh, that's a motion?
Yes.
All right. Supported by Dr. Lathrop. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
You didn't give me a chance to ask, since it's going so well. We have 4.
Don't push it.
We need a couple more, yeah. You needed 2 is good.
You need to get the full staff before we can talk about any additional.
Yeah, right. Well, as you know, that has been a concern, so that's why we're trying to work through this and try to get it going as soon as we can, so.
All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really cool, Sheriff, thank you.
Chris, did Mr. Cousins or Mrs. Hall want to speak anything?
You're certainly welcome to.
Okay.
Kelly Hall, I live at 512 East McKinley, and I'm president of the school board, and I just want to speak on behalf of the district and the board and indicate we look forward to working with you and trying to both work with constrained budgets. Thank you.
I'd like to point out one thing before. We've had, since as long as I was in junior high, relationships with the schools. That relationship, even though we've not been in the school district, we are in constant contact with the school principals or our school assistant superintendents, speaking about problems within the schools. The issue we have is we've lost relationship with the students and the staff at the school buildings themselves. This is a valuable program, and we're going to be back. We're going to have to talk about this in the future, but we've never lost that relationship, so just so you're aware of that. So thank you very much as well.
I do have one question. Are you planning on partnering with the Traverse City Police in this program, or are you going to be just simply going into the, for instance, Central High School, Eastern Elementary, which is in the city, et cetera, et cetera?
We'll stick to jurisdiction lines at this point. The city has their program that they run. They have their relationships with the school. They've never taken a liaison officer from Central High School. And they, I'm sure, would welcome any discussion we have to talk about how this can work better throughout all districts within the county and the city. But at this point, we have not approached them and asked.
So, what I'm hearing is Central Grade School is not going to be included, Eastern Elementary is not going to be included, Traverse Heights is not going to be included. I mean, you said all schools.
In the county. You know, the city has...
Those are in the county.
Yes, city has sector, well, they are in the county as well. So give us 6, and yes. The reality is, 2 officers are going to have a very difficult time hitting
I know.
all those buildings.
I agree with it, and I'm just...
The partnership would have to come as a willingness on the part of the city police that probably already use their sector officers to some degree to hit those elementary schools. So I'm going to guess that is going to be their position on that. But we've not talked to them about partnering in this venture within the city limits.
Have you educated them on what you're proposing? Have you spoken with the city police?
Yeah, I believe we have throughout the course of discussion over the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Department vehicle purchase. You want a truck, Suburban, car?
Well, the sheriff's on a roll. I'll let him take this one, too.
Yeah.
You have the proposal in front of you. We went out for bids for both Chevy Tahoes and Dodge Chargers. Tahoes, we received 1 bid, that from Williams Chevrolet. For the Chargers, we received 3 bids. One of those bidders has the state bid for Dodge Chargers, and they happen to be the low bid here in this process. So we are requesting the purchase of 5 Chevy Tahoes from Williams Chevrolet at a cost of $31,290.06 per vehicle, and 2 Chargers, which we have to discuss as well. The procurement policy does allow for a local bidder preference of 5% from the low bid. All local vendors were outside of that low bid, or outside of that preferred preference of 5%. Bill Marsh bid, the bid is $1,321 over the vehicle cost from Snethkamp Dodge, and that is about $140 out of the 5%. So our position is we would like to purchase the vehicles locally. However, we understand that that is a significant cost to incur. It could be, that's going to be $2,640 some over and above the low bid, and outside of our 5% preferred vendor policy.
Commissioner Rennie?
Why do you want to buy them locally, then?
Well, there are a couple different reasons. One, they're here. We purchase the vehicles from people we know. We speak to them. We trust them, face-to-face contact. Also, when it comes down to servicing the vehicles, they will honor the manufacturer's warranty. However, when we do go there just seems to be a sense of, why am I servicing your car when you bought it from 300 miles away? They do the job, and they always have. But the relationship is not there, and sometimes I wonder if they fix the car and move it along rather than actually helping us out in terms of telling us what the problem is. And
I have some dealership experience, and I can assure you that we would do warranty from people that did not buy vehicles at our store, but there was always a little difference in the priority they received. I think it's real important to buy this stuff locally. I agree with you on that.
Okay.
Commissioner Wheelock?
I'm a little surprised that Bill Marsh chose not to bid the GMC Denali's, which is the same vehicle as the Tahoe.
I'm not sure I want the guys driving Denali's. No, I don't know why either, Commissioner Wheelock. We put the bids out in the local papers just as we do with every other vehicle. Send bid requests out, and they did. The only bidder was Chevy.
And these are four-wheel drive Tahoes, right?
Yes, they are.
Another organization that has blue cars in town has some that are two-wheel drive, and I just wanted to make sure that we didn't...
We shouldn't discuss the error of their ways in public.
That's what I said.
Commissioner
Organization
Lemko.
with blue cars, I didn't...
I might state that when we buy local, they are non-homestead property taxpayers, and they pay a lot more taxes for our community than the other people. So I would support that we go with the local bid.
Me too.
Would that be a motion, Commissioner Lemko?
Will be if you get back to me.
Make a motion.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Madam Chairman, I would move to authorize the purchase of 5 Chevy Tahoes from Williams Chevrolet in an amount of, for a total of $156,450.30, and 2 Dodge Chargers from Bill Marsh at a cost of $49,978.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. You're buying locally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One point, if you recall our conversation, I think it was in October, we approached the board and discussed the issue with the Ford Crown Victorias going out of production.
Yes.
And the issues that we were facing surrounding the Interceptors, the Capris, and the Dodge Chargers. We are still in that evaluation period. We evaluated Chevy Capri last week, and we're still working on figuring out which vehicle is going to be best for us. So we do have some money in the vehicle purchase budget, some money budgeted through the capital fund, correct?
Correct.
We are under budget as of, I think, about $26,000 or $27,000. It was our hope to do more T&E on these vehicles and maybe purchase another vehicle later on in the year, so we will be approaching you at that point.
We have to find a little bit more money, and we don't want to get it now and run short, so there's some money there. We hope to keep it there at the end of the year. Once we get through the budget, maybe, like we did at the end of last year, identified some money we had available to purchase another vehicle, so.
Nate, are we 4 years into the current Chargers that we have?
Oh, we are well past that. I think we're 6 or 7.
Oh, isn't that? I didn't
Yeah,
think-
Charlie Jetter's car, don't hold me to the number, I think is around 170,000 miles.
You know, and
Yeah.
we really, truly I haven't heard anything about continual maintenance issues with those vehicles, which we all know when we did the Caprices and some of those, we had continuous issues, but I haven't heard any of that from any of the guys that are driving the
No.
Dodges.
When they were first out, they had a brake issue in the front end.
Front brakes.
And they fixed that, and that problem's gone. Sick. 160,000?
That is correct. Kevin Dodge has been really unbelievable
Yeah.
compared to D&W Auto does they have our contract.
You're going to need to come up to the microphone.
Get in on this.
And introduce yourself, please.
See what happens when you talk?
Yeah, right. Randy Fulis, I'm the captain of the patrol division for the sheriff's office, and D&W has been doing our maintenance for several years now, and they have had expressed to us that the turnover with the Ford Crown Victorias, which have been the best police car ever made, in my opinion, they were telling us turn those vehicles over between 125 and 130,000 miles. And again, as the undersheriff said with Deputy Jetter's car, we're at close to 170,000 miles and, minimal maintenance on those. So we're going to be moving that one out of the fleet so that it doesn't start to become a problem. But we've been really impressed by that, and that's, in my opinion, probably the direction that we're going to go in the future. And with the Tahoes, that was the recommendation also that we had from D&W, was to move in that direction away from the other SUVs that we currently have. So I think we're going in the right direction, but
You're not old enough to remember the old Dodge Furries, so.
no, I'm not. I've heard many stories about them, though. So.
Ooh, those are good ones.
All right.
Seen them ragged down once or twice, too.
But, anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
All right. Thank
Randy.
you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Commission on Aging, home chore equipment repair and maintenance bid. I see Georgia, Holly, Jill, and Sean here.
Lots of
And-
support.
And whoever wishes to come forward may. All right.
Good evening. Again, Holly DeWalt, Deputy Director of the Commission on Aging. You will notice in your packets that you have a recommendation with regards to our bid for our home chore equipment and maintenance. Basically, this contract provides equipment maintenance and repair for our commercial-grade mowers, push-style mowers, commercial-grade backpack blowers, power sweepers, trimmers, and snow blowers. So with that, we did submit bids. We sent them out to 7 vendors back in October with a due date of November 7th. We did run legal notices in the Record Eagle as well. 2 bids were returned to us, Roy's General Store and Lark Lawn and Garden. The Commission on Aging did form a review committee consisting of 4 staff to open and tabulate the results. You will see in your packet that Roy's bid was $52.90 an hour with a 17% discount on parts. They were awarded 50 points. Lark Lawn and Garden had a $60 an hour shop rate with a 10% discount on parts, and they were awarded 60 points. And I'll just kind of mention that piece. We did have a specification sheet that was included, and both vendors scored equally on all of those specifications, except for the one that we asked if they would be able to return equipment to us within a 1-week time frame during the season when we are in need of the mowers to provide the home chore service of lawn service. We need to have those back in a timely fashion. And with that, Lark Lawn and Garden responded that they would in fact be able to return them within that time frame. And additionally, that's been our experience as we've contracted with them in the past. And quite honestly, their turnaround time most often was 2 to 3 days. And Roy's responded to that same specification and indicated that they would only be able to honor that I want to say the wording correctly, pending parts availability and customer waits. So they were not awarded points for that. So, in the short of it, what the Commission on Aging is recommending, because of that, we go with Lark Lawn and Garden to perform maintenance on our home chore equipment.
Commissioner Inman.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
I believe that previous to the award last year for Roy's
Correct.
General Store for maintenance and stuff, you were contracting with Lark Lawn and Garden.
Correct.
So you have at least you have an experience with both companies.
Correct.
So your recommendation is that you're getting a better response and better service in terms of the time need that you need with Lark Lawn and Garden versus Roy's?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I would entertain a motion. Commissioner Wheelock?
Madam Chairman, I would move to authorize the contract with Lark Lawn and Garden for home chore equipment maintenance.
Is there support? Yep. Supported by Thomas. Dr. Lathrop?
No, I was going to support it.
All right. Discussion. Commissioner Wheelock?
I guess the point that would have to be made is that most of our home chore equipment, I believe, is Gravely equipment, and Lark Lawn and Garden is the regional distributor for Gravely equipment. Therefore, if Roy's General Store is to buy parts for a Gravely piece of machinery, they either have to go to Lark Lawn and Garden or go outside of our community to order the part. And that's going to make your significant difference in wait time.
Sure.
All right. We have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is board member number. Sean, do you want to come up and speak to this?
Can I just say one
come
thing
on.
while you're waiting?
Huh?
In regard to the Smart 911?
I can, but you're here as a member of our board? Sure.
If you decide to go with Smart 11, we would very much like the opportunity to help promote that. We can use the senior center, we can use our assessment aides, our nurses, to help get those people registered. So we offer our services if you go that way.
Well, thank you, Georgia.
Would you also be willing to help pay for it?
Talk
maybe
to
the school
the chair of our board.
Hi, good evening. I'm Shawn Burt. I'm on the Commission on Aging Board. I live at 4415 Bartlett Road in Williamsburg. And we, in our bylaws, we are set up to have 15 members on the Commission on Aging Board. We currently have 12 through various forms of attrition. And what our executive committee has recommended is that we fill one additional, one position so that we're at a level of 13, but not formally change the number of 15. We'd like to have that as a fallback position. We have several very active committees. We're concerned that if we change the number to 13, or any number less, that it would make it difficult for the participation on the committees. You know, we're all volunteers, and currently we request that everyone be a member of one committee. Obviously, if you reduce the number of members on the board substantially, then we're going to be serving on more than one committee, obviously, which might be, you know, when you have volunteers, that could be a difficulty. So what we're looking to do is fill the one of the vacant positions, operate with 13, which would still give us enough to participate in the committees, and then we would see if we really need to go up to the full 15 or at some point reduce the number. So that's what we're thinking.
Thank you, Sean, and you did that very well. I didn't want you to come all the way here and not speak.
Not have something to say?
I hope that that's acceptable. We want to try it with 13, but we don't want to formally reduce that number until we've tried it and see if it works. So with that, I guess we would want to refer, since we have 12 members now, we would want to refer an ad hoc committee to RM&A.
Well, I don't have a problem.
To pick the 13th.
Yeah, I don't have a problem making a motion that the Board of Commissioners would appoint one vacancy and hold the other one open until we make a further determination, and we'll just make that a motion. Then we can make a motion to defer the vacancy to RMA.
Okay.
So I'll make that first motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Lemko? Is that support?
No.
It's not. Is there support for Commissioner Inman's motion?
Yes, I'll support it.
Dr. Lathrop. Okay, Commissioner Lemko.
I would like to speak on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and ask if there's another commissioner that would like to sit on that board. We can appoint up to 3 commissioners to that board. In fact, when I talked to Bob Cooney, he said, you can appoint as many commissioners to that board as you want. So if there's a commissioner that would like to sit on that board, I'd like to have first preference there. So if you would give that some discussion or thoughts in the future and let me know if you have a desire, then let me know that direction.
I think that that would be fine if another commissioner wishes to do that. I'm fine with that, but I think that needs to come from RM&A.
Whatever.
All right, we have a motion and support. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drive safely. Administration. Mr. Benda, that would be you.
I don't have much for you tonight. I just note that we're trying to set up a meeting to do our strategic planning and meet with our department heads, and I don't know if we've gotten that settled yet or not.
I'd like us to look at our calendars right now. I believe
Not a bad
strategic
idea.
planning is important, and I think we need to...
But I think it's too much to try to add to our Wednesday night meeting.
Yeah, I do too.
No, I agree, but there are
That
6
suggestion
other
was
days in
made,
the
but
week.
there's just no way.
My suggestion is that we start at 3 o'clock and spend that time and then have a break for dinner and then go into our commissioner meeting.
Oh, no.
That's just too much.
Oh, no.
That's too much of a brutal day.
No.
You got to
I
devote
like
some real
you,
time to
but
this thing.
that many, but not that much.
Thanks.
It's
Too many hours.
How about Monday, the 10th?
Well, that ain't gonna work.
I got a meeting Monday night.
I'm talking about daytime.
During the day.
The 18th and the 19th, I don't know if we have anything scheduled at all.
I can do it Monday during the day. Anyone
And
else?
It could be the 18th and 19th. If we need 2 days, we can do back to back. If it gives
Fine.
everyone's calendar. It's a Monday and a Tuesday.
Fine. 18th and 19th works for
That's
me.
President's Day, and one of them, he said.
During the day?
Yeah, during the day.
What day-
Well, you do it like a 9 to noon.
What day is the 19th?
Oh, Dan can't.
I'll
Tuesday,
make
you
it
got-
happen.
Tuesday, you got
That's
claims.
important. I'll make it happen.
We could do claims after the meeting. It's not a problem.
How about Friday?
Friday works for me, too.
A Friday.
Friday the 15th.
Very light day would be
Friday-
better for me.
Friday's better for Dan.
Friday the 15th is open.
Sounds good. Friday the 15th?
You want to do it in the morning or afternoon?
Hey, Donuts and coffee, I'm good.
Sometime after I
We
get
start
up.
at 6 in the morning?
Start like at 8.
Yes, can we start at 6 o'clock in the morning?
You can do like,
Yes, I'm up at 5.
we can do like an 8 to noon or something, just to make sure, or whatever, 9 to noon.
8 o'clock,
8 o'clock, something?
Friday morning,
Does that work for you, David?
What
That's
date Friday? What's the date?
the 15th,
15,
I just
okay.
won't go to.
8 a.m., the 15th,
8 a.m.
right here.
And that'll be our first meeting?
Yes.
Really?
That'll be all the
9?
department presentations. Then we'll have to schedule
You will
another.
have people not here at 8.
I don't think it's going to take that long because it's...
Dickie wants 9 a.m.
9 works too, but,
9 to
this is a
12.
presentation by each of the department heads.
9
We're not
a.m.
going to have a dialogue back and forth. They're just going to come in and talk about their issues and their programs.
And then we'll,
And
and then we'll
so-
we'll schedule the next meeting.
The next meeting will be when we start
Yes.
to
All
put
right.
that stuff together.
9 a.m., that'll give everybody
Right.
a chance to
Okay.
9 a.m.
have
to noon.
coffee.
9 a.m.
And put
to
on
noon.
a smile.
Gives me time
All right.
to come in from that other time zone.
Well, you hit
Mission
that one out of the park, Mr.
mission
Bender.
accomplished.
Anything
Easy
else?
enough. Very good, thank you.
Friday, that's February 15th.
All right.
Yeah.
Next, unfinished business, remediation efforts at Grand Traverse Pavilions.
That's just a piece of information
All right.
from Jean Dorenzi.
Didn't know if you wanted any comments or
She's just
to
kind of
comment.
letting you know, I think we were talking about getting it back to this meeting. Jean's not here.
All right.
It's just a piece of information to let you know that it's coming, and we had a go ahead.
Now, actually, I had asked that Brownfield get involved with this because they were looking at just getting it done. So I'm hoping that Gene will look at it, bring it to the Brownfield Authority, and let them make that decision rather than bringing it to us. But it's just informational purposes for you. There was a emergency vehicle unit there at the hospital, and they moved it out of there. And when they moved it out, they did find some environmental problems, and so we just want to make sure it's being taken care of before they transfer the property back to Munson.
Okay.
And Munson wants it to be clarified, so that's why it's going before, I'm asking for it to go before Brownfield.
All right. Next item on the agenda is something I brought forward, holding tank information. And we have Mr. Slater, the manager of DPW, Mr. Lyle, and Mr. Manigold, East Bay Township, Ed, Tom, okay, and everyone's here. Okay. How this came to be on our agenda was I attended a Board of Public Works meeting. And during that Board of Public Works meeting, a spreadsheet was handed out, and that spreadsheet was done by Supervisor of East Bay Township, Glenn Lyle. And it showed records that clearly are inaccurate or holding tanks that are not being properly serviced. And so I went in immediately after the BPW meeting. I drove over here and was asking Chris Kramer to put it on the agenda for tonight, and Mr. Benda was in his office, and he heard me, and he came out with his copy, and he said, I got mine last night at Peninsula Township's meeting. So I asked this be put on tonight's agenda. I don't know, Wendy, if you want to speak to it, Mike, if you want to speak to it, but clearly we've got some problems here, and I'm a firm believer, we have computers, and we have a responsibility to provide accurate information to the Board of Public Works. And our information is not clear. Mike, would you like to start?
I'd be happy to present some information for the board. My name is Mike Slater. I am the Director of Public Services for our Public Works for Grand Traverse County Board of Public Works. This came to light shortly after the breaching of the Brown Bridge Dam, where there are a number of homes that were inundated with floodwaters. The engineering firm, Amex, took it upon themselves to have those homes pumped out because there were numerous holding tanks which were affected by the flooding, which would have flooded the holding tanks. So to make things right with the property owners at that point in time, they decided to foot the bill for pumping the holding tank. So anybody that had a holding tank could have had that pumped. In East Bay Township, there were numerous holding tanks that showed up for the very first time in our manifest records, which record the property and then the pumpage from the haulers. There were numerous properties that were homestead properties that had not been pumped of record in over 2.5 years. Now, generally, a holding tank is pumped every 2 months. There are some homes in this area which are summer cottages. There are some that are used very little, but there are also numerous ones that are being claimed as homestead exemption that were not being pumped. Taking it a step further, Glen Lyle then got records for some of the other townships. That's the kind of the shaded gray areas that you see from page 57 on up to 64. These kind of identify the homes by township that are claimed as homestead, and then the number of pumps that you see, some of them once, twice, many of them not at all, yet a number of them, that are 17, 10, et cetera, during a 2.5 year period, which you would expect. The very last sheet shows 56 properties that are homestead that have no records of pumping at all. The last page has been verified by the health department as being on holding tanks. The other sheet shows the shading. My board didn't want me to spend the time trying to identify which properties were homestead, which ones were septic, et cetera. So this needs to be cleaned up, the ones that have the shading, and there were some of them that were on there where the home has since been removed, razzed, or converted to a septic system. So this shaded one just kind of gives a highlight, if you will, of properties and the pumpage of record for the last 2.5 years. The very last sheet has been verified and shows a number of homes, many on lakes and rivers, that have not been pumped at all of record. If you want to maybe assume that they were pumped and taken to one of the treatment plants in Frankfurt or Honor, at the time, those plants were charging 4 cents a gallon, same price that we were charging for holding tank. There's very little incentive for a hauler to haul to those out of county, if you will, treatment facilities, because in their contract with the Board of Public Works states that they will pump and utilize the septic treatment facility for all homes within Grand Traverse County. So they're kind of running the risk of losing their opportunity or right to utilize the septic treatment facility. So I kind of rule that out as one of the major concerns, that it's being pumped out of the township or out of the county. My concern is more that it's being pumped into the rivers and lakes. And really, when this became an issue back in the 90s, it was during the 2020 visioning, to where the people of this county were asked what they held valuable in Grand Traverse County. Overwhelmingly, it was the clean water, the environment, keep it clean, build us a plant. So at that time, this board authorized the Board of Public Works to begin negotiations or bonding, whatever, to build a septic treatment plant. It has been built, and the records from the manifest show that we now have a concern that there are still individual properties that are being claimed as homestead that are potentially dumping into the rivers, lakes, and streams of Grand Traverse County.
Thank you, Mike. And what is the health department doing to assist the BPW and to check to see what is actually occurring?
Well, we did go through, I'm Tom Buss, by the way, Environmental Health Director, Grand Traverse County Health Department, Environmental Health Division, and with me tonight is Dan Terrell. Dan is a sanitarian with our department, and I asked Dan to come along tonight because he was helpful in, with Randy Amiap, putting together the sheets and going through and checking them for accuracy to see what the status of those systems were. We did come up with 56 homes that we did not show any record of pumping. And with that, I guess the next step would be to probably contact those residents of those homes to see, what is their rationale for not having any pumping showing. And I'm thinking, we went through and just jotted down some ideas of possibly why they haven't been pumped, because we found this, as Dan went through the process of checking the records, one of which would be maybe the building is vacant. Foreclosures are a possibility where there's nobody living there, the place might be foreclosed. Some are pumping and possibly taking it out of county, that was mentioned before. There's always a possibility of cheater lines. You know, either somebody is pumping these things out in the middle of the night or something so their neighbors don't see what's happening, or they possibly have a cheater line that might be running to a river or creek.
Or to the neighbor's system.
Yeah, it could be tied into the neighbor's system. Guest cabins, we found that in some of these too, that actually they're guest cabins, they really don't get used. Houses not built. So, you know, there are several different possible scenarios. It's my hope that we don't have actually 56 places that are illegally discharging. I'm hoping that we find out differently, but we don't really know that until we take the step to, you know, try to find that out from those residents.
And we are checking?
We will be. We'll be drafting a letter, sending it out, see what kind of response we get, and
then
go from there.
probably, and if you don't get a response, will you go out physically and take a look?
Well, you know, that's, I guess at that point, we need to talk with Bob Cooney to see,
Okay.
you know, legally what can we do, because, you know, we're probably not going to see a whole lot if we go out there. The tank is underground, unless you happen to walk up there and find a line running out of the tank, you know, and that's not going to be highly likely. So most of the infrastructure for a holding tank system is subsurface, so we're not going to be able to see a whole lot just walking out there and walking around the yard.
In some cases, you will.
Especially this time of year.
Not this time of year, you're right. This time of year, no, but in some cases, you will.
Right. And, you know, that might be what we find, but until we actually do it,
Okay.
we really don't know.
But you are being proactive, you're checking.
Yeah, we'd like to know too, you know, why, we have the same questions, and we'd like to get to the bottom of it too. And if it gets to the point where we find out that, yeah, there's systems that maybe they're cheating, we'll obviously be working with the prosecutor's office to, you know, to get that corrected.
Okay, thank you.
It's probably good to know too that since about 2005, 2006, we do have other options in our code, that maybe some of these places, even though they're not holding tanks, they may not even be aware that they could possibly even put in a septic system, a raised mound, or advanced treatment system where they could get off holding tanks. So, in that, I mean, we would make every effort to, you know, help that along. And one of the other things that Tom mentioned could be a possibility, and I know you guys were talking about it, is the homestead status. You know, are these people, are they gone, you know, 6 months out of the year?
That's a good point. Our equalization director probably would want to see this. Commissioner Wheelott and
Well,
then
I guess
Commissioner Thomas.
a couple things. One, I'd like to see this list forwarded to the townships also, because I think you're going to find that at least some of these parcels of property have been upgraded and maybe under a different name, you know, whatever, and somehow or another. You know, we've seen a multitude of these small lakefront lots become one lot with one house on them, and now they have a pump station or whatever. You know, you're right, the technology has changed significantly. It allows us to put, you know, fewer and fewer holding tanks in our community, but there are still a bunch of them out there. Although, you know, I don't know if I remember right, we only had like 750 holding tanks in all of Grand Traverse County or something like that a few years ago. You know, we all talk of 400 tanks. You know, I think about 10 years ago when we had the first discussion about this, there was like 700 total in all of the county. And, you know, everybody kept talking about your holding tanks, how much it's costing for the holding tank. We didn't have any holding tanks. Percentage-wise, they're such a small piece. But if there are still holding tanks there, and if they're still there, and even though it may be a weekend cottage or, you know, just a little time in the summertime, if it hasn't been pumped in 2.5 years, I'm starting to be concerned about the system, because most of these old holding tanks were not like the 50,000-gallon ones that we see in today's world. You know, they're small. And, you know, I remember, you know, when the first gallon toilets came out that had the little plastic bottles on top of them because, you know, that's what they put in these cottages because they didn't use.
Thank you for sharing that,
they didn't use
Commissioner.
Excuse me, you don't remember Thunder Pots?
Yeah, I remember those too.
Commissioner Thomas.
Well, I think probably more than cheating on their holding tanks, we might find that people cheat on their homestead exemption because now you're talking dollars. And somebody who they may or may not even have a house downstate, that's up to be traced through the equalization system, rather than your local assessor wouldn't know that. All they do is they go by what's being claimed as a homestead here. Okay, so he gets pumped 3 times a year, but he's never here. But he's getting his tax benefit rather than taking it downstate somewhere, and that would be hard to track them. I don't know how you'd track them.
Mike?
I will say that a significant number of these too, when it was brought up to take it to the township assessors, we worked with the assessors when we looked at when the prospect, if you will, of a special assessment was being looked at by the Board of Public Works, and received the list from some of the rural township assessors. And one in particular I'd worked with the assessor on, and he had it pretty well cleaned up. And there were a number of properties that showed up as being on holding tank that were not on his list. In looking at the records at the health department, those homes have a septic tank that then discharges, instead of a drain field, it discharges into 2 holding tanks. So they are listed as septic tanks. So from the assessor's perspective, I think they're pretty much assessing what a home's value is, not necessarily what kind of a treatment system that they are on.
Mm-hmm.
And many of these homes were not your little shacks or small cottages. They were some pretty nice homes on some pretty nice lakes and rivers.
I'm going to offer Supervisor Lyle and Supervisor Manigault an opportunity to speak. You've sat here enthralled, I'm sure, for an hour and 45 minutes.
Good evening. Glenn Lyle, East Bay Township Supervisor.
Thank you. Rob Manigault, Peninsula Township. There may be quite a few good answers of why these aren't being pumped, if they've changed to a septic system or something. What we have are about 380 holding tanks that we're aware of, got the list from the health department. We have, since 2010, we have a manifest that the haulers turn in to the Board of Public Works. We just overlaid how many times these guys have pumped, and that's what we're presenting you tonight. There may be answers, there may be people pumping into the lakes, and we think it should be looked into.
Glenn?
I guess I just, wanted to add, yeah, you're going to find different answers for this stuff, but the thing is, they say, well, there's probably less holding tanks. I took Green Lake Township. The county shows, I think, 82 holding tanks. I got the manifest of what had been pumped since 2010, and I laid down the spreadsheet. There were 20 more holding tanks, addresses, and people than what the county showed. So instead of going down, it actually went up. Or, and I'm just taking, all I can do is take the paperwork that comes into the county and use that. I would hope that nobody's pumping a septic tank, charging the owner 12 cents a gallon and bringing it to the plant for 4 cents. But all these questions can be answered. It's just going to take some work. And I appreciate the people taking the time to go through this.
As do I. And Wendy, thank you for the work your department's doing on this. Anyone else?
No, good.
All right.
Appreciate the report.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. This is our second opportunity for public comment.
Kelly Hall again, 512 East McKinley. I just wanted to mention with respect to the Smart 911 software, if the Board of Commissioners does approve the purchase of that, TCAPS can offer our assistance. We have an email program that could contact each of our families. We have, if you count preschool, we have over 11,000 students, 1,400 staff members. We could have a link in that Alert Now email that would go directly to the 911. And especially our special education teachers could be wonderful resources for kids who have disabilities. So we offer our assistance.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Daryl.
One last time, since I waited this long, I missed my son's basketball game, so I just wanted to say thank you to the board for supporting the Smart 911 system, especially to Jason and Jamel also I brought this to them a number of months ago, and I thought it was a great system. I still do. And with Sonny's comments, great comments. When I looked at the system as a whole, there's a lot of questions that came up for me as a father, husband, EMS professional, firefighter, but my parents and my grandparents. I'm a 93-year-old grandpa that still lives at home by himself. This internet thing, to where he's got to put information, or information has to be put in for us end users to get to, that's not him. Nor is it my parents. My parents don't have they have a computer in their house, but no internet access. So I told Jason, like he stated, I'll go door to door in my service area to put this out to those providers, and I'm sure most fire department and ambulance, those folks, as well as TCAPS, Commission on Aging, to get this information out. It's only as good as the information that's put into it. So I appreciate the board's support on this project, and I think it says something if we're the first county in the state of Michigan to have this too, that it goes back to the care of the community that we have for our citizens. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right. Commissioner committee reports. Dr. Lathrop.
Yeah, I want to report that I went to the Peninsula Township meeting last night, only to find I was there a week early. So I waited, I thought, God, where are these guys? And, I called Chuck, and I had to, Charlie, I had to confess to somebody that
Well, now you've confessed to everyone.
You know where to go next week.
Just to let you know, you're not the only one that's ever done that.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Right.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Commissioner Lemko?
As you know, in the paper today, they said that 211 was approved. I did call 211 on my phone and found out that Charter Cable has already flipped the switch, so it is active for people with Charter. And I'm not sure about any of the other phone systems, but Steve Wade from United Way has asked that if you are on a particular phone system, that if you would check to see and then let him know whether or not it's been activated or not. So I'm really excited about having that service available to our people in Grand Traverse County.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Well, prior to coming here, I attended a public presentation at Long Lake Township in regard to the reconstruction of North Long Lake Road. But the moment I walked in the door, the first thing I was cornered with was what I could tell them about 211. Because Long Lake Township received a letter asking them to endorse 211, but included in the letter was an explanation that said that they're still short of $86,000 to fund it. So I'm not sure where that's going, and at no time in any public meeting that I've been to has there been any discussion about asking of additional funds from either this board or the local entities.
No.
But I can assure you one thing, at least from Long Lake Township's point of view tonight when I was there, they are certainly not prepared to designate funds to this program. So, I don't know who sent the letter out to the townships asking for their endorsement, but I do believe something should have been taken care of, because, the commitment from this board all the way along is we committed $20,000 to start this ball game 5 years ago.
Yep.
And that was the extent of taxpayer dollars that was going to be put into this program. And, you know, I was a little taken back when they told me they received a letter and identified in that was the need for an additional $86,000.
I'd like to know where that letter come from.
Well,
Because,
and I didn't get a copy of it. I
am-
ran from that meeting to this meeting.
I am on the fundraising committee for 211, and we have not discussed at all going to any township or any government entity to go for funds. We are going after, Rotary has given us a $40,000 grant for this year, and that's part of a 3-year grant. And we are also looking at going after tribal grant funds and also through some of the nonprofits like Goodwill, like Munson, and also some of the foundations that we will be going after funds. Never have we talked about coming back to the townships or the county or the city.
I'll try to get you a copy of that letter
I appreciate
tomorrow,
that.
but,
Any other committee
I went,
reports?
Like I said, I went from one to the
Commissioner
other,
Rennie.
so I didn't.
I did attend the Michigan Northern Counties Association meeting Monday, and had a great presentation from a fellow on what's going to happen with health insurance and how it's going to affect this county. We are a big employer, and this is coming down the road, and it's going to be a nightmare from what this gentleman said.
It already
Very
is.
expensive.
I have been dropped by my health carrier once in January. They call me terminated. Once in January and once in February.
I like that.
And they said that this is what is happening to me is happening to other Shell retirees, and it's due to the changes in the Affordable Health Care Act, and I am covered, but at the moment, I have to pay my own bills. So,
Don't get sick.
I do have an announcement, and that is, I do not have an Area Agency on Aging report because there was no meeting in January. Just to let you all know, I will not have one next month either because I was told today that tomorrow's meeting for February has been canceled. So,
Voila.
so far, it has not been a tough assignment.
Friday
Chairman
morning,
Hunkle.
Friday morning, we are meeting with Commission on Aging
Yes, we
Committee.
are.
That's you, myself, and Larry Inman.
Yes.
And meeting them, talking about the collaboration or the issues between the Commission on Aging and Grand Terrace County Board.
All right, and is there a need to go into closed session, Mr.
Yes,
Bennett?
there is.
Oh, okay.
I would entertain a motion to go
Yep.
into closed session.
Madam
Chris,
Chairman, I
For the
would,
purpose of,
Chris, would you recognize that we have a couple of students here?
I would. Thank you for coming, and you sat here all evening.
they might as well get signed off.
we might as well get
before we
signed
leave.
off before we go in.
Yeah.
Might as well come on
Please
out.
come
Come on
forward.
up.
Yep.
Madam Chairman, I would move that we go in closed session to discuss a workman's comp claim with staff and the attorney.
Is there support?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lemcool?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Thomas?
Just one.
Thanks, Kelly, for coming.
That's a pencil.
Kelly, thank you.
Oh, I'll use a pencil.
yeah.
It'll work.
Chairman Max Bauer?
So
Yes.
you're looking for,
You get credits for this or something?
sure, they get paid for
You get extra because it was a long meeting?
They have to do it.
Eagle Scout badges or
So
something.
now you know you're never going to run for anything.
All right.
Has to go and visit a.
Looks pretty enthused to me.
There, now you can leave.
I think I have an Eagle Scout interview on Thursday, so.
We are in the large training room
All right.
over here.
We gotta go, my hair's falling down. We gotta go for the Oh, jeez.
Like where'd you get?
It is.
Bless you. Before they shut the lights off.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to come out of closed session.
Is there support? Supported by Rennie. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Commissioner Wheelock.
Madam Chairman, in regard to the file number 102988, I move that Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners agree to settle as per the recommendation of our attorney, and that this board at this meeting ratify said decision.
Is there support?
I support.
Motion by Wheelock, supported by Rennie. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Do we need a roll call on that, Chris?
I would suggest you roll call
All
that.
right, we'll roll call it.
Commissioner Lemkool,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Max Bauer.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay.
Oh, let's stick around.
Thank you for waiting. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Too early for me to go home.